That night, the city had just endured a relentless downpour. The streets glistened with rainwater, puddles reflecting dim, trembling yellow streetlights. The air smelled of wet asphalt and faint decay. The clock crept toward midnight. Hung, the taxi driver, a man in his 30s with graying hair at the temples, guided his old silver taxi through empty streets. The engine hummed quietly, the wipers scratching across the windshield rhythmically. Late at night, empty roads, whoever dares to ride. I dare to drive. But sometimes, some passengers aren't entirely human, he muttered to himself, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Tonight, he had no idea he was about to experience the most haunting ride of his life. Every shadow seemed to twitch, every distant sound amplified in the darkness. Hung was about to pull over near a dimly lit corner, just to rest his eyes for a moment, when he saw a faint silhouette by the roadside. A girl in a long white dress stood completely still, hair plastered to her face, drenched by rain. Her figure blurred in the haze of streetlight and mist. Instinctively, he slowed down. She raised a pale hand, almost imperceptibly. Hung felt a chill crawl up his spine. He opened the door cautiously. "Where are you going at this hour?" he asked, forcing a smile. The girl's voice was hoarse and cold, almost a whisper. "Take me home to the outskirts." Hung hesitated for a heartbeat, sensing something strange in her tone, something unearthly. Still, he nodded and pressed the gas. The taxi slid forward, tires hissing on the wet asphalt, entering the night's thick, heavy silence. Inside the taxi, the air felt thick and cold. Hung glanced at the rearview mirror. The girl sat stiff as a statue, her eyes fixed blankly ahead. Her skin was pale, almost glowing under the dim interior light. Lips tinged purple. Her wet hair clung to her face, shadows hiding her expression. Hung tried to break the silence. "Lucky you found me in this storm. Taxis are scarce at this hour." The girl's lips curled into a faint, crooked smile, almost unnatural. "If I hadn't met you, I might never get home." Her words hung in the air, blending with the sound of rain tapping on the roof. Hung felt a shiver creep down his spine, and his hands tightened involuntarily on the wheel. The taxi turned onto increasingly desolate streets. Hung recognized the path, leading to the outskirts, where few dared to venture at night. The trees leaned in, shadows forming grotesque shapes, and the sound of dripping water seemed amplified in the stillness. "Which village are you from?" "I'll follow the map," he asked. "Just go straight. I'll guide you," she replied slowly. Every turn she suggested led deeper into narrow, unlit alleys, deserted, with houses shuttered and overgrown. The wind whistled through gaps in the doors and windows, rustling leaves like whispers. Hung's pulse quickened. The roads felt alive, as if they were guiding him somewhere dangerous. Half an hour later, a foul, earthy smell began to fill the cabin. Hung wrinkled his nose. The scent was damp soil mixed with a metallic tang, sharp and nauseating. He cracked the window, hoping to clear it, but the odor intensified. "Are you carrying something? There's a strange smell," he asked nervously. The girl tilted her head, her eyes dark pools of shadow. A whisper escaped her lips. "The smell of graves. It's me." The words made Hung's blood run cold. His hands shook on the wheel. His breath quickened. The taxi felt smaller, claustrophobic, as if the air itself was thickening around him. Trying to distract himself, Hung spoke cautiously. "Your family must be worried. It's late. They must be looking for you." She shook her head slowly, her voice distant, like coming from another realm. "I have no one. My family abandoned me." since the accident. Hung felt a lump in his throat. His pulse pounded in his ears. He wanted to ask more, but her hollow, empty gaze fixed on the rain outside, unblinking, unfeeling, as though she no longer belonged to this world. The taxi entered a forested stretch, darkness pressing in from all sides. Hung leaned back to ask which way to go next, but the seat behind him was empty. She had vanished. Hung froze, every instinct screaming danger. He stopped the car, frantically switched on the headlights, and opened the door. The wind whistled and the rain fell harder, but there was no sign of the girl. Impossible! She was right here a moment ago, he muttered, panic rising. A cold draft brushed his neck, sending a jolt of terror down his spine. A hoarse voice whispered directly behind him. "You haven't taken me home yet." Hung spun around. The girl was sitting upright, eyes black and endless, wet hair clinging to her pale face. She was close, too close. The taxi seemed to shrink around him. He slammed the gas pedal, heart hammering like a drum. The air felt heavy, oppressive, as if invisible hands gripped his throat. Finally, the taxi emerged at a crooked, decaying wooden gate. Beyond it lay a village swallowed by darkness. No lights, no signs of life, only broken roofs and abandoned houses. The girl pointed silently. "Here, stop." Hung surveyed the scene, shivering. The place seemed to have been deserted for decades. "Are you really living here?" he asked, voice trembling. She didn't respond. Her figure stepped out into the foggy rain, fading into mist as if the world itself was swallowing her whole. Hung exhaled shakily and reached for his fare, but the seat was empty. No trace of her remained. His flashlight illuminated an old newspaper on the floor. The headline screamed, "Horrific accident, young girl dies in night rain. Taxi drives away with no help." The photograph below was her face, the same girl. Hung's body froze. He felt as if his soul had dropped into the icy ground. Limbs weak, mind spinning. He couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Hung panicked and started the engine, attempting to drive away. But no matter how he turned, the road led him back to the same gate. The clock inched toward 3 a.m. The wind roared, rain pounded harder. From all directions, laughter echoed, soft at first, then growing in volume, countless unseen figures closing in. "Let me go. I'm just a driver. I didn't do anything," he shouted. The laughter thickened, deafening, pushing him toward the brink of insanity. Suddenly, dozens of figures emerged from the darkness, white, drenched, hair hanging over their faces. They blocked the road, standing like statues. The girl from earlier stepped forward, pointing at him. "You have seen everything now. You must stay with us." Her voice was freezing, like the wind of an open grave. Hung's heart pounded. Sweat ran down his temples. Hung flung open the door and ran into the rain, slipping past rotting houses. Every step seemed to take him back to the same place. Footsteps splashed behind him, unnaturally synchronized with his own. "Stay with me," a voice whispered chillingly. Hung fell, eyes wide with horror, as the girl approached, hand pale and skeletal, reaching for him. The next morning, villagers found the taxi abandoned by the roadside. Engine dead, doors wide open. Wet seats suggested someone had just been sitting there. The driver was nowhere to be found. An old newspaper lay inside, chronicling the tragic accident years ago. Whispers spread. Another driver lost on the rainy night road. To this day, no one knows what happened to Hung. Some say the girl's spirit dragged him to pay a blood debt long overdue. Others believe his soul now roams with the late-night passengers, wandering the outskirts on rainy nights, waiting to flag down the next taxi. If one stormy night you drive through the outskirts and see a girl in a white dress waving by the road, would you stop? Remember, some rides never return.